Hey guys, my name is Josh. I'm the worship pastor here at Hope Church Mayport in Jacksonville, Florida. I've been pastoring now for several years for worship and AV side of the house, and I've had the opportunity to sit under several great leaders and mentors within the worship and AV ministries. I've been to Pensacola and Virginia and Jacksonville, and that's simply because I'm still active duty, and so God has placed us in certain areas of the country, and I've been able to learn from several different people. In that, I've also learned a lot of automation when it comes to ProPresenter and ATEM and multi-tracks or loop community. And I simply started incorporating that because we had a lack of volunteers for certain aspects of service. Now, if you were to watch our live stream here at Hope Church, you would think that our church was at least 100 to 200 people on a Sunday. And that's not the reality. The reality is we are only 40 to 60 people on a normal Sunday. And there's nothing wrong with that size. In fact, it's a lot more intimate and everybody knows everybody. But the size of your church should not dictate what the level of production is for your live stream. When they are watching your service, whether it's your church members who can't attend or someone new and they're trying to figure out if your church is a right fit for their family, you should always be able to make them feel like they are sitting inside of the service with you. And so the goal of today's video is to show you how to get a dynamic camera set up if you don't have enough volunteers. If you have volunteers that can run cameras, the better option here is to teach them how to manage camera operation. But in our case, we don't. I have 2 people and they alternate weeks. And so most of the time they're running slides on ProPresenter or they're running sound. They don't have time to sit at the camera switcher and switch camera angles left and right. All right. So I had initially set up macros on ATEM to automatically switch our cameras every 30 seconds. And while I was sitting at home, I got to thinking, if I can automate lyrics with loop community through ProPresenter, why can't I do that with my cameras? And then that way I could have a more dynamic worship environment online than just a robotic every 30-second switch. And so that's what we're going to go through today. Now, I do want to preface, this is assuming that you already have a MIDI network set up on your church computers and in your AV booth. If you don't, there are just a massive amount of videos on YouTube or Facebook, and they will show you how to connect each computer via a MIDI network and show you how to set all that up. So I'm not going to show you guys how to do that. My focus is to show you how to get a setup running for your cameras. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive in. I think the first thing that we need to accomplish here is you're going to have your software for either loop community or multi-tracks. Now, with that, you've got to make sure that your MIDI network is set up. So what we're going to do here, I'm inside of our set for this week. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to our settings and we're going to go over here to MIDI. Now, this is the very first thing after you've got your MIDI network already set up, which is these 3 right here. I have an IAC driver bus. I have a network session because I'm connected to the church computer in the sound booth. And then I have companion in. And I'll show you about companion here in a second. So you'll see I have lights on network session 1, channel 1. And then under patches 2, I have network session 1, channel 2. Now I have channel 2 for patches 2 because patches 2 is what I'm using to send the MIDI signal from loop community over to the Mac Studio back here in the booth, from here up to the web to companion, and then companion back to the computer into the ATEM software to control which macro has been enabled for which portion of the song. And so if we go back and we look, you will see 2 types of macros here. I have lyric macros, which are in red, and I have patches 2 macros, which are in orange. And remember, patches 2 macros are to control camera shots. Now, the next step that we have to do here is to go into companion and get that all set up and ready to receive the signal. As you find yourself inside of Companion, you have to download it to begin with. And once you have Companion running, you're first going to go to Connections. There's going to be a few things that you need to set up. On this right-hand side over here, you're going to see that I have generic MIDI, and I also have Blackmagic Design ATEM. Those are the two things that you're going to need connected inside of your Connections. And when you're going through, you're going to have your ATEM, and you've got to make sure that it's all connected. Now, in order for this to work, your ATEM has to be connected via Ethernet to the computer. And I understand you only have one Ethernet connection on the back of your computer, so what you do is you set up a switcher. I have a switch, a network switch in the back. The ATEM goes into the network switch. There's a Ethernet that goes from the switch to the computer. There's also another line that runs from the switch up to the stage, so it connects Loop Community, so I'm not relying on Wi-Fi signals. And there's a line coming from the router in the office back here to the booth. Back into this software, you're going to see the ATEM. So I've got it hooked up, and this is my ATEM's device, right? If I were to search it, there's only one connected. It automatically pulls the model. It automatically pulls my frame rate. It automatically pulls my IP address, and that's what's important. You've got to have all of that stuff set up. The second thing is your generic MIDI. So under generic MIDI, my MIDI network in is network session 1. And my MIDI network out is also MIDI network session 1. After you've got those two things set up, you also have to go to your modules page. You're going to make sure that general MIDI or generic MIDI and Blackmagic ATEM are both in there. Once you have done that, now it is time to set up your triggers. And these are the triggers that I have set up for the different sections of the songs. Now, up to this point, I have not been able to figure out how to get the MIDI note from Loop Community to just kind of do like a push button effect. It only does a toggle effect inside of here. Companion doesn't recognize MIDI note on, immediately MIDI note off. It will not turn it off. Until they get an update, there's no way around this. And so what I've had to do is I've had to split each portion of the song. So verse 1, verse 2, verse 3, verse 4. And I've only created 4 of each thing. And you'll see why here in a second. Then I have chorus 1, chorus 2, chorus 3, chorus 4, bridge 1, bridge 2, instrumental 1, instrumental 2, instrumental 3, instrumental 4, a speaking MIDI number 2, and then reset cam. Now, I told you I had all these different ones set up, and there's a reason why that last one, reset cam, is there. So, in Companion, the flaw with it not being able to trigger the MIDI note on and immediately back off, it always reads as true. That's a problem. And so this reset cam MIDI is going to, I'll show you here. The very first thing that you're going to do is on condition becoming true. The next thing that you're going to do is, this is the condition. So this is, event is saying on this condition becoming true, which means when this is activated, the action is going to be internal connection, enable or disable connection, generic MIDI, no, which means it's going to turn off the MIDI, and then again, internal connection, enable or disconnect or disable, generic MIDI, yes. All this is doing is causing this connection up here to go off, on. And that simple trigger of turning that MIDI network off and back on inside a Companion resets the whole system for Companion. And you need that in order to have song 1 have those MIDI notes, song 2 to have, song 3 to have, song 4 to have, or how many songs you have. You can also use that reset cam MIDI inside of a song if you've run out of a particular portion of MIDIs. Like, for instance, if there's just a song that's got like 7 instrumentals, at some point you're going to have to activate that trigger to reset it so that you can restart from instrumental 1 again. So I've set these up. So Inside of my triggers on Companion, you'll see verse 1 MIDI. I have on condition becoming true. The note number is 100. These are MIDI notes that I've assigned within our ecosystem that I have available, so that once that MIDI note is activated inside of Loop Community, then it will cause ATEM macro to run verse MIDI number 7. Now, if we pull up ATEM software, you will see my macros here. I'm going to stop this. You'll see our macros here. This is what I was using originally, auto rotate, and it just rotated every 30 seconds on hard cuts. Then I had cam 1 and 2, cam 1 and 4, cam 2 and 3. I had all those because we had some problems with HDMI cables. Needless to say, we don't need them anymore. Now, how these macros are numbered, you start with the first one. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You get the idea, all the way down. So when this macro inside a Companion is saying, when note number 100 comes through on channel 2, activate macro verse MIDI number 7. And the cool thing about this is, because your computer is connected, it knows all of these MIDIs already. I didn't name these. It automatically pulls it from ATEM software. So, verse MIDI number 7. And then if you want, you can actually test this action. So, let me minimize this for a second and we'll pull up ATEM. So if I click test action here on the screen, it should activate the macro called verse MIDI inside of my ATEM software. So we're going to click test action. And you're going to see that there's an orange box around verse MIDI. Now, it has activated and is running my verse MIDI macro. So you have accomplished that. So you have to figure out which MIDI notes are available within your system. For us, there is a particular set of numbers of MIDI notes that are available because we use some of them for Pro Presenter, we use some of them for Light Key, and now we're also using it for camera control. So I had a very specific range that I could pick, and it was range 100 through I think it's 116. All right, so we've got Companion connected to the MIDI network. And the next step here is to go into ChatGPT. Now, this is a whole debate on where to use AI in ministry, but if you are not a production director and you have not been formally trained, you do not know the technicalities behind choosing which camera shots to make it feel dynamic. So we're going to use ChatGPT to help us in that manner. We're going to tell it that it's a production director. You're going to give it camera specifics, locations of your cameras, and then it's going to tell you a sequence of how to set these cameras up to make them feel like there's an actual person behind the switcher switching the cameras. So let's take a look at how I have prompted ChatGPT to spit it out. Inside of ChatGPT, you're going to see this big prompt area. What I want you to do is I want you to type in this exact prompt, and I'm going to include it in the comments of this video just to make it easier for you. And then you're going to modify it to your suit. So it just simply says, you are a production director for a large church. You have been tasked with creating a flow chart for automating your camera switching due to a lack of volunteers. I will provide you all the details about the cameras, the camera model, the lens model, the distance from stage, height in relation to the stage, overall image of the shot, and where it is located in the room. The goal is to create one macro in ATEM software for each section of a song, i.e., the instrumental, the verse, the chorus, the bridge, and also speaking. The output of your recommendations should be in the following format. The macro name, this is going to be the section of the song. Camera 1, tack 8 seconds, a mix effect. Camera 2, 7 seconds, a mix effect. Camera 3, or camera 1. You will do this for each portion of the song to create a dynamic worship setting for the online viewers. You will treat each macro as a repeating macro. That means each macro will restart at the first step after it finishes. When you are ready, let me know and I will upload the camera details for our room. Place this prompt inside of ChatGPT. Give it your specifics. That's the next step. So gather your camera models, your lens models, the height to the stage, the distance from the stage, and where it's located at in the room. These are very important because each shot is dynamic in and of itself. So to get all of your cameras to work together, you have to have all of this information. So I'm going to press enter. This is ChatGPT's response, right? It says, perfect, this is exactly how I'd build it in a no operator environment. You're thinking like a technical director already. Before you send the camera specs, here's how I'll approach it so you know what you're getting back. So what they'll optimize: perceived human direction, no robotic loops, emotional build of the song, verse, chorus, bridge, escalation, avoiding visual fatigue, so no predictable left, right, left patterns, hiding camera limitations so the fixed cameras still feel dynamic, and seamless macro switching, so no jarring resets when MIDI triggers to fire. What they need for each camera: camera 1, model, lens, distance from stage, height, angle, typical framing, best use. Repeat it for camera 2, camera 3, camera 4, however many cameras you have. And what they will give back to us is a fully programmed macro loop. So instrumentals, verse, chorus, bridge, speaking, and each will include exact timing per shot based on energy level, camera order that feels intentional, mix timing strategy, so they'll assume 0.5 to 1.0 unless we want different for sections, and the flow designed to transition cleanly when MIDI triggers. The bonus: given that you're using an ATEM Mini Pro, companion, and MIDI triggers, loop-based macros, they'll also design the macros so new section triggers feel like a director is cutting live, avoiding loop collisions and suggesting which sections should feel more static versus dynamic. Now, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to provide them with our camera details, and then I will come right back to you. Okay, so I have all of our camera details inside of ChatGPT. I'm going to go ahead and press enter, and we're going to see what it spits out. Okay, so this is what ChatGPT has given us. It says this is a solid 3-camera layout. You've actually got enough cameras or enough coverage to fake a 4 to 5 camera production if we sequence it right. So here's how they're thinking about the cameras. So camera 1 is our center shot. It's our authority shot. It's the anchor, it resets, visual orientation, best for tight emotion and preaching. Camera 2 is our left higher shot, which is your context and depth shot. So it shows the congregation, the stage, and makes online feel like they're in the room. Camera 3 is our right close shot, and it's our energy shot. Feels more intimate because of the proximity to the stage. Now, here's the global timing rules that it has spit out for us. It has said, for verses, we want it to be a slower transition of 6 to 10 seconds for each camera. For choruses, we want it to be faster, 4 to 7 seconds. For bridges, the dynamic tension, so 3 to 6 seconds with intentional repeats. Instrumentals, exploratory, so 5 to 8 seconds, more movement feel. And for speaking, you want it to be stable, so 8 to 15 seconds. The transitions assume a 1-second mix across all, so clean and modern worship feel. Now, I'm going to tell you what I've done is I've incorporated mixes and cuts. So for instrumentals, we have mixes, which is essentially a fade between the 2 camera shots, and it's at a 0.5. And then for choruses, I have cuts, because your choruses are typically higher tempo, higher energy, and so I want that to feel the same. Just think about that kind of stuff when you're doing this. Sometimes you have to feed ChatGPT some questions to make it kind of really think dynamically. So for our macros, it wants us to do instrumental for intro, turnaround, and pads. The goal is to set the environment, establish space, and don't rush the cuts. So this is what it said. Camera 2 is the starting one. You're going to hold for 8 seconds and then mix effect to camera 1. You're going to hold that one for 6 seconds and then mix effect to camera 3. You're going to hold that one for 7 seconds and then mix effect to camera 2 and hold that for 6 seconds, and you'll repeat. It has given me a list of what it wants me to do for each one of these. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to go in and I'm going to create the macro on ATEM. So let's do that. Okay, so before you create the macro, you need to make sure your settings inside of ATEM are ready to go so that when you record your macro, everything's ready. So we're going to go back to our ChatGPT. It says camera 2 for 8 seconds. So that means I need to make sure that camera 2 is not active on the program side. So if I check my camera here, it says camera 3 and it's red, so it's active on program side. The next thing that I need to do is I need to make sure that my transitions are set up the way that they're supposed to be. So it wants to do a mix effect and the rate is 1 second. So what we're going to do is we're going to test that. It should auto mix from camera 1 or from camera 3 to camera 1. So I'm going to click auto and it has faded. You can't see it on here, but it is over here. It has transitioned. So I'm going to go ahead and put that back. Camera 3 is active. Now, we're going to go ahead and start recording this macro, okay? So click an empty box on the create side of your macros and then click the plus sign. I'm going to name this one test and we're going to click record. You're going to see this nice red box pop up. You're going to see this add pause button here, and this is going to be used to add that pause in between the transitions. So the very first thing that we need to do, and you can use your ATEM switcher if you want. I would highly suggest that you use the software though. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring cam 2 into the preview side, and we're going to go ahead and click auto. Now cam 2 is active. We are going to add the pause of 8 seconds. Notice I'm not clicking everything right away. This is where that pause has to be. You have to give ATEM software time to write this macro. So click pause. After you have paused, just go ahead and wait that pause, so 8 seconds. The next camera shot that's going to be active is camera 1, according to what ChatGPT has told us. So we're going to put camera 1 in the preview slot, wait a couple of seconds, and we're going to click auto. Now it has activated camera 1. We're going to pause again and add a pause of 6 seconds this time. Just take your time while you're writing these macros. Click add pause, wait for that pause. You don't necessarily have to wait for the pause that you're creating, but it's short enough, so you might as well. It wants camera 3 to be next, so we're going to click camera 3 for the preview. Wait a couple of seconds, click auto. Now camera 3 is active. The next camera that it wants us to put in the queue is camera 2. So we're going to click add pause. It wants this camera, which is camera 3, to be on the screen for 7 seconds. Click add pause, wait a couple of seconds, and then go camera 2. Wait a couple of seconds, click auto. Now, we are going to wait a couple of seconds again, click add pause, and it wants this final one to be 6 seconds. Click add pause. Give it a couple of seconds, and then click this red button right here to stop the macro. Now you'll see the name of your macro right here on your screen. If you click run, we're going to get it off camera 2 first because we know that that's the camera that is going to be first. You'll see run. You're going to click recall and run and activate this repeat button right here. Now, if we jump back into companion, if I were to create a new trigger here and say add trigger, now it's down here at the bottom, I can name it test, and the event, we're going to go back through and we're going to do these on condition becoming true. The condition is going to be generic MIDI note on. The channel is channel 2 because that's the channel that you have selected inside of Loop Community or multi-tracks. and the note that you have assigned to it. I have not assigned a note to this because I don't want to go back through my macros, but whatever your note is, right? The velocity, set it to 1. You don't need 127. It really doesn't matter about these macros. I've never had a macro fail because I didn't choose a very specific macro. There's a lot of stuff online that'll tell you choose 127 so that if the macro is enabled, it will automatically send it and there's no lag. I don't have lag with 1 either. Now the action, we want the ATEM macro. So if you type in ATEM, you'll see a bunch of ATEM stuff here. So we're going to scroll through until we see macro. ATEM macro run. And we want it to activate that new macro that we just created. So I assigned that macro to macro number 15. So I'm going to go down. I'm going to select 15 and I'm going to click run. Now, if I click test, it should activate macro number 15, which is our macro that we just built. So let me click test action, and it just activated it. It went to camera number 2. You can kind of see it here on the screen as well. And it's starting its rotation now to camera 1. It'll go to camera 3, and then back to camera 2 to finish out the macro. This is the sequence of how to get this all set up. Now, like I said, I'm not showing you how to set up your MIDI. I am assuming that you already have a MIDI network set up and your computers are already talking, okay? If you don't know how to do that, go check out another video. I'll try to make a video later on to show you guys how to do it, but there are thousands of videos on how to connect your computers through MIDI. Your biggest issue that you're gonna run into with Companion is that it has to receive on a separate channel with the MIDI network. And then the network session that you're connected to for your MIDI is session 1. I have my MacBook Air, which is the Loop Community computer from the stage. It's connected. And then inside of Companion, you are still connected for your generic MIDI through network session 1. So it's receiving the MIDI network on network session 1, the MIDI notes coming through, and then it sends it out on MIDI network session 1 as well. So now if you're having trouble and you're wondering if the note is being received, you can click log and you will see everything that's opening. So you'll see disable instance generic MIDI, enable instance generic MIDI, it started a process, and it will actually tell you which thing is being executed. So you can see if it's actually working or connecting or not. If you have any trouble, leave a comment down below. Let me know. I will try to help you out as best as I can. And I hope that this helps make your live stream just a little bit better and a little bit more dynamic, even with a lack of volunteers at your church. My goal is to help worship leaders who are struggling produce something a little bit better. Not every church has the budget to pay for a consultation to come in and spend thousands and thousands of dollars to set your systems up. Check out the next videos. Let me know what you guys want to see next, and I'll try to make those videos for you. Other than that, you guys have a blessed week, and I'll see you back in the next video.